Have you been hearing the recent disputes over redistricting in the state, federal and local levels?
Redistricting? What is that?
Well, I will tell you. Redistricting is the act of redrawing federal, state and local boundaries for voting procedures and elections.
Where does this take place?
Redistricting takes place everywhere in every city in the country. It is the basis by which we equally distribute voting strength amongst districts and cities. Districts can vary in size, depending on the size of the city you live in and the population.
When does this process take place? Every month.
On the contrary, this process is only enacted once every 10 years.
Once every 10 years. Why is the process so infrequent?
Redistricting is in response to population change in a community. As population increases or decreases within a particular region or district, new lines and boundaries must be drawn. This is done to equalize the voting strength of each district.
That makes sense. So like everyone has equal representation?
Exactly. However, the act of redistricting has standards.
Standards? You mean like rules?
More or less, yes. Standards for redistricting consist of equalizing districts to ensure the equal voting strength for each district. However, during this process there is a risk that gerrymandering might take place.
Gerrymandering. That term sounds familiar to me.
It should, for it has been present within the world of redistricting since its roots. Gerrymandering is the practice of drawing electoral district lines in order to limit the voting strength of a particular party.
Hey, that's cheating.
It sure is. Gerrymandering is an unjust act sometimes liked by politicians who it benefits. These people try to either strengthen their party's voter basis or weaken that of the opposing party.
How unjust.
Indeed. However, this is a problem that the electoral voters have been encountering for ages.
Wow. No kidding.
Yes, and I think now you have a good understanding of what redistricting really is. How about some history of the process?
Please go on.
Very well. Redistricting has seen the majority of its problems in the past having to do with not only the problem of gerrymandering local districts, but that of school districts as well.
You're kidding me.
I'm not. School districts have things called attendance zones that are redrawn every time a school closes or opens back up.
What happens if there is a dispute?
In the case of a dispute, school boards are elected to resolve them. Also, one of the most important historical attributes that is still in act today is the effects of resale values of homes within particular school districts.
I would think so.
Yes, I even have some information from the government textbook. Chapter 6, Section 3 to be exact. This chapter puts a lot of focus on the 15th Amendment, ratified in 1870, that states that the right to vote cannot be denied to any citizen of the United States because of race, color, or previous condition of servitude.
But,
simply stating a general principle without providing for a means to enforce implementation was not enough to carry out the intention of the amendment. Over the course of 90 years, the federal government paid little or no attention at all to the African American voting rights. They went as far as restricting African Americans from voting in Southern polls with the use of literacy tests, poll taxes, white primaries, gerrymandering, and even violence.
That's terrible.
Yes. If you ask me, everyone and every district should have equal representation.
Same here. And there was a court case that disputed that very idea.
You are correct. In the textbook, Chapter 10, Section 2, it tells of the U.S. Supreme Court case of Reynolds v. Sims in 1964. During that case, the court ruled that the population of state legislative districts should be relatively equal.
No joke. And the following year, in 1965, the legislature enacted Senate districts that divided the large urban counties into multiple single-member districts for the first time.
That's right. Also, in 1971, following the failure of the legislature to enact new Senate districts after the federal census, the Legislative Redistricting Board, also known as the LRB, convened for the first time and ordered new Senate districts.
Oh yay, I remember that.
Yeah. And remember that like 50-page packet we got entitled Special Orders.
Yay, I could not even finish one.
Well, I read all of them. Let me tell you all about them. They are super fun.
I'm thrilled. I can hardly take the suspense.
Well, for starters, in the essay called Two Generations of Redistricting, an overview, written by a man that lived in southern Georgia, was familiar with the inequalities and discrimination that was ever present during the past century. He stressed ideas like population equalization, fair treatment and maximization of partisan strength. After the Supreme Court opened challenges based on equal protection, Congress in time interpreted this as requiring fair treatment to minorities. Even though the Voting Rights Act of 1965 did not specifically mention redistricting, this legislation was brought forth to eliminate current practices against blacks who wanted to participate in the electoral system.
How interesting.
And also, the essay, Substantial Political Consequences, a practitioner's perspective on redistricting. The author elaborates on the goals that partisans and non-partisans have for redistricting. Partisans aim generally to minimize variation of partisan control. They prefer to categorize districts into Republican, Democratic and unclear. Like in the planessment part of the essay, the author elaborates that many states are thinking of the importance of electing minority groups to high federal offices. Yes, but enough with that essay. What caught my attention was the essay, In Congressional Elections, written by Michael P. McDonald.
What does it say?
Basically, it says that it is possible to increase electoral competition during redistricting by drawing districts that tie together politically opposite areas of a state. These lines can touch golf courses and shopping centers, staying away from populations that may be mostly the opposing party. Many state constitutions do not allow these non-compact districts. However, compact districts can be made more competitive.
How so?
There are many ways to increase and decrease competition, but sometimes they are seen as unfair because they seem to benefit one party more than the other.
Oh wow.
Yes, some methods are conscious choices during redistricting are reducing electoral competition by drawing less lines for districts. The politicians seeking re-election prefer safe districts as well as uncompetitive ones, naturally. Don't you think we have gathered a lot of information from the texts and essays?
Yes. They have indeed been very insightful, well thought out, specific and helpful connections and excerpts.
I think so too.
The textbook in 2 out of the 4 essays seems to really stress a lot over the 15th Amendment and the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
It seems as though our country wants everyone to be equal, yet it has taken 90 years to achieve some sort of equality, yet of course there is discrimination to some degree amongst society today.
The textbook also states that partisan goals of redistricting consist of those wanting little competition, safe districts and good school districts, like the author of the essay said as well. What a connection.
Also, in another essay composed by Ronald Keith Getty, the author stresses partisan point of view regarding the goals and achievements of redistricting.
But what is the difference between a partisan and non-partisan?
A partisan is someone who has concrete political views. They are devoted to one party and will not change their mind regardless of candidate. They stress party loyalty. On the contrary, non-partisans are more subjective to party choice. They contemplate the ideals of the candidate and put aside the categorization of party. Usually, the non-partisans are more liberal. However, they are a good image for the electoral population because they are not biased. Also, in the same essay, they talk about the 15th Amendment to an extent, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
Do they really? What is their main focus?
Well, like in Chapter 6, Section 3 of the textbook, in the essay written by Charles Bullock, the man from southern Georgia, the focus is mainly about fair treatment of minorities and equalization among them.
Oh, so kind of like that other essay written by Benson. It agrees that minority groups are leaning towards a more accepting society and the opportunity to run and serve in public offices.
Yes, exactly. The thing is that it has taken so long for us to get only this far.
I can only imagine what it was like for some people in the old days.
Me too. So now, do you think you have a good understanding of what redistricting is, was and might soon come to be?
Yes, definitely. I think America itself has come a long way, and you have done a good job informing me of such.
I would say the same. But let me give you the 3 key points to walk away with about redistricting.
Please do.
1. Always keep your eyes peeled for gerrymandering. It has been and will be around for a long time because nothing is going to stop people from the urge to win, regardless if they must cheat to do so.
Got it.
2. Districts must be equal. Everyone deserves equal representation.
I would think so.
And 3. Each state has its own standards for creating their own districts. And that's all I have to say about redistricting.
Thank you so much. I really understand now.
Good. Hope to see you soon.